acronym that is no longer in common usage. What I have, an acronym. Take. I was reading this acronym, and oh my god. Such an example, I have this on record. I will leave this example. Incremental greetings. If you are using the English collection, you may have noticed that when you want to see the phonetic readings, you can use Alt-Y, and you get both components and everything. So even the convention or whatever is in parentheses. But look at that. If you noticed, the file name is also transliterated to the phonetic reading. Now, this is an item for incremental reading. That's an HTML component. And look what happens now. Whoops! This is almost gibberish, right? Two things. Usually when you see the question marks is because that word, that string, is not on your registry. Here, pronunciation by word. It doesn't appear here. But here the problem is HTML. Okay, so what happens is that that's actually a topic. Now I have added some incremental reading on my English collection, which is about English. I put the incremental grammar, and here also that it's all the words using that, onym, ending. I won't be memorizing all of those, just the ones I want to, but I will process that incrementally. But what happens is that that's actually an HTML component. So now if I want to transliterate to phonetic reading, look at that. It works. You lose the styling, obviously. Now it becomes plain text. But here you have question marks. Question marks are usually when the expression is not found, which means that it's not on your registry. Or the registry is here, pronunciation by word. Here it is. So let's say now, let me pay attention to the word. Portmanteau. Here it is. This word doesn't exist. Let's check that. Acronym. Okay. So let's check if this doesn't exist. So search other registries, pronunciation by word. Here, find substrings and acronym. Nope, it's not found. So when you see the question marks, it's not because it's HTML component as I thought, but it's because it doesn't exist registry. Usually it's hardly to happen on the built-in English collection. It happens. I notice some of the words are not in the registry, but most of them are. But since this is a foreign content that I added myself, then it's very arbitrary, so it's likely that I am having words that doesn't come with the English collection. So the solution now, if I wanted to, is adding those on the registry myself. So first I will create search, web search, acronym. Let's see what happens. And free dictionary. Let's see. Acronym that is no longer in common usage. What I have, an acronym. Oh, I read acronym. Okay, my own mistake. It's okay. I will use that. This works for me. Now the HTML is stripped because this is text component. Is to swap the Q&A. So Ctrl-Shift-S. Acronym that is no longer in common usage. So it's a combination like enemy, friend, frenemy, the same thing. But I don't have the phonetic reading. So if I put Alt-Y, look what happens. So all the words I'm using for the description are on the registry, but not the target word. So next thing I will do is let me duplicate this one. So I will be following the convention. So that will be P for pronunciation, and I will also change the template. Here you go. And I will need the actual API. It's not here. Okay. An acronym. So my pronunciation was already off. Gotcha. And if you're really pro, you're really a hardcore user of Supermemo, you may want to put that on the registry. For instance, in this case, it's unlikely because the reading on the registry will be useful if I ever have this on text. It's out, and now I get it. But how likely is to have this word within context outside of its own cards? So when I will use an acronym outside of the anacronym items I'm doing now? Unlikely. The maximum, for instance, the same example I did before, frenemy. When I will be using frenemy outside of its context? Unlikely, but I may use it as a queue. For instance, here, it's no longer in use. So just to show you, if you go to search other registries, pronunciation by word, so it's another registry. You go add, and let me copy the phonetic reading. And just to be sure, I will copy the here so I avoid typos. So look, we just added a new entry, a new registry member. This means that now I'm incrementally reading something and this pops up in my... Yeah, I remember that, but how it's pronounced, let me check. Oh, here you go. Now it works. If now we go back to the original, because actually that word was not my actual target word, it was this one. So now we go back. Look, now we have the anacronym. Anacronym. Oh man, this is hard. And if I am really hardcore, I will keep doing that for all other expressions. I have three more. Now the question is it worth it? That depends on you. In my case, this absolutely useless to have it on my registry, because I won't see it anywhere on its own items. That is what I will call a prime item, like the prime numbers that you can only divide by one on itself. Those items for me are prime items because are only used on their own items and related. So the pronunciation and so on outside of this won't be appearing on prose on any other item or topic.